Okay, so for our committee of the whole, I'll call to order the committee of the whole of June 26, 2025. And just before I move into the declaration of interest, I'll just note in order to facilitate doing the final items of business 8 and 9, which would be the other business and notices of motion, what we'll do is we'll call those before we go into closed session, just because closed session is a training session. So we don't want people having to wait too long for that. So just keep that in mind that we'll just reorder those items at the very end of the agenda. At this point in time, I'll put out a call for declarations of interest regarding this agenda. Seeing none, then we'll move on to business arising from the minutes. We don't have anything scheduled. Therefore, we'll go to determination of items requiring separate discussion. So item 5 is listed. There are 8 items in 5. So I'll put out a call if there are any of the 8 items that a member of the committee of the whole would like to pull for discussion. Okay, see nothing online, see nothing here in the chamber. So Madam Clerk, we can then proceed on then to the recommended motion. It's recommended that the following consent agenda items be received and that staff be authorized to take actions necessary to give effect to the recommendations in the staff reports and that the correspondence be supported or received for information as recommended in the consent agenda. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Dickert, seconded by the Deputy Warden. And any discussion? All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Therefore, we'll move on to item 6, which is items for discussion. We have 2 for discussion this morning. Item 6A, first I'll get a recommended motion on the floor and then we'll call up Director Shaw. So with that, it's recommended that the County of Grey Community Services Committee meeting minutes dated June 5th, 2025 be adopted as presented and the following resolution contained therein be endorsed. Number 1, that report CSR-CS 1025 regarding the Rockview fire restoration update be received for information. And number 2, that report CSR-CS 1125 regarding homelessness prevention program 2024-2025 year in review be received for information. And number 3, that CSR-CW 0925 regarding an update on the Rose Lane redevelopment be received for information. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? So it's moved by Councillor Dobreen and seconded by I'll take Councillor Pringle. And with that, we have it on the floor for discussion. Welcome, Director Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Moore. So good morning again, Council. I'm going to provide a little bit of an overview of the community services meeting that was held on June 5th. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Staff provided a year in review of the community services, which consisted of social housing, short-term shelter, early learning, and childcare, and Ontario Works. In the community housing, the report spoke to a number of energy saving programs that staff participated in. We were able to get 500 refrigerators through a Save on Energy program at a worth of about $325,000. Attic insulation for 63 of our units at Victoria Village in Meaford. We had heat pumps and a cooling that were also put in and at Victoria Village for 63 families, and will lessen their utility bills and will provide energy efficiency, and that was a cost of around $500,000. The report identified many capital and operating projects and spoke to community programs such as children programming, barbecues, and community garden programs that we have throughout our portfolio. The community housing waitlist in 2020 was 1,102 people, and in 2024 it is now 2,157 as of December. So it has doubled, practically doubled over the last 4 years. And normally about 70% of people that are on our waitlist are Grey County residents. Social housing waitlists are open to anyone in the province. Information was shared through our short-term shelter program, which we celebrated earlier today, of our 375 households that were assisted, which was 446 unique individuals. 54 children under the age of 16 were supported. 174 households were successfully housed, but we still did have about 4.8 households that we turned away because of capacity issues, or they did not qualify, and that was throughout the year. That was on a weekly basis. Daily basis. Ontario Works, our caseload is about 1,337 households that are in receipt of assistance. That's a nearly 4.7% increase over 2023. The average household is on Ontario Works for about 33 months. 577 households were referred to Employment Services last year, and 204 exited Ontario Works for employment in 2004. Our average case load for our caseworkers is about 100 to 110 households. Early Learning and Childcare noted that there are currently 27 active providers in our home childcare roster. We currently have 1,160 families, or 1,394 children, that are paying lower fees at a licensed childcare because of the CWELC program. And the report also spoke to programs available for children through our special needs resourcing, early years mental health programs, and early on. And it also reported on the success of our early learning and childcare hub that we have at Sydenham campus. There was a report provided for the Rockview fire restoration. About a year ago on June 15th, we had a fire at our Rockview Apartments, which is a 2-story building comprising of 20 units located at 248 7th Avenue in Owen Sound. About 17 of the 20 units had smoke damage, and the unit above it, and unfortunately our trusses in our attic were also damaged. We did work with our insurance provider for restoration to remove debris, provide smoke and soot removal, water extraction and drying, content restoration for ourselves and for our tenants, and the asbestos abatement. All of our tenants have been relocated permanently, and we are looking right now. It was tendered in February, awarded in May, and Winmar is looking at a 6-month from July, looking at 6 months for the restoration to occur. We wanted to look at this as a bit of an opportunity. We're sitting here with a building that is 20 units that is open. So we thought about what we could do, and we would like to, we are going to work with Canadian Mental Health Association in providing supports there. It won't be the same level of supports that we have at 14th Street, but it will be 40 hours a week. So someone who is at 14th Street or someone in our motel program or on our wait list that needs some support with mental health and addictions could go and live there and provide that support on a daily basis. There would be somebody there from Monday to Friday for 40 hours a week. So it's another step in the housing in which we need to support all of our individuals. So we're working on that right now and hoping by the new year that that will be up and running, and definitely will provide another update to our Community Services Committee. Our next report that was brought was about our homelessness prevention program. We received funds from the province. We received about $3 million, $3.2 million in order to run all of our programs, our homelessness programs and our support programs. To date, we have not received our 2025 allocation, so we're going on assuming that it's going to be the same. The funds allow us our emergency short-term accommodations, in which Josh provided information about earlier. And it also provides us to provide some of that retention and prevention. We know that it's best if people can stay housed. It's a lot less costly to our system and to other social services and health systems. And it's a lot better for the person too. So through our sustainable housing benefits, we were able to provide $760,000 for 694 people last year for last month's rent, utility costs, moving expenses, and rental arrears. The funds also provided community outreach supports to Safe and Sound and 211, which provides our after-hour navigators to our individuals experiencing homelessness. They handled over 900 calls last year for us. Our community enhancement allows us to provide some funds to those agencies that are working to assist people in our community that may be experiencing or at risk of experiencing homelessness. We were able to provide funding to Beaver Valley Outreach, Salvation Army Family and Community Services, the United Way, OSHARE, Canadian Mental Health Association, and Light on Main in meal program in Hanover. Our housing with related supports, we provide funding to 5 individual, they are for-profit providers. We pay for the individual to be able to stay there, and they provide 24-hour support and assistance with medication and daily living skills. Our next report was about our Rose Lane redevelopment. The report provided an update on the progress of the redevelopment. We are looking at a 40-unit affordable housing apartment building to replace the 11-unit building in Dundalk. We are working with JPM Architectural Inc. For services. As part of our process, Southgate circulated the site plan and as part of the pre-consultation process to the Grand River Conservation Area. They noted their mapping did not align with our mapping and Southgate's mapping. The site is considered a wetland, or part of it is considered a wetland with floodplains marked as hazard. So we are right now working with GEI consultants to provide an environmental impact study to determine the extent and potential hydrological impacts to the wetland. So it could change what we are doing. It may not be a 40-unit building if we can't come to some sort of an agreement, and definitely will put us behind in our timelines, unfortunately. We will continue to work with GEI and Grand Valley Conservation Authority. So we're expecting a report either late July or August, and we will bring an update to the September Community Services meeting. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for those details. I'll put it out if there are any questions, and we'll go to Councillor Bourdignon online.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and through you. Just in relation to CSR CS 1025, the Rocky Fire Restoration, you touched on it, just about the financial aspects in relation to costing for restoration and relocation through insurance or through Grey County budget. Sorry, could you just extrapolate on what was covered fiscally?
Certainly. So we are insured through Marsh Insurance. We belong to the Housing Services Corporation, and the Housing Services Corporation actually provides insurance for all of our social housing within Ontario. And right now, all of our expenses are being covered through insurance, except for the deductible, which was $50,000.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Councillor Eccles next.
Thank you, Madam Warden, through you to Anne Marie. You said in this project you're looking at putting a mental health support worker in the building 40 hours a week. Is that going to be one of our, is it one of our employees? And what is the, financial cost of that?
Through you, Madam Warden. So it's actually CMHA. So CMHA has a worker in which they are able to allocate to that building to provide services. We'll provide an office space in the building, so that would be the only cost to us.
Okay, looking around the room, we'll go to Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Warden. Good morning, County Council. That was a great meeting. We had that socials. There was a lot of information. One thing that impressed me was how your staff in OW are assisting people navigate the system to get the proper assessments so that they can qualify for ODSP. Can you just elaborate for the rest of County Council on what we're doing there, please?
Through you, Madam Warden. So we have a number of people that are on Ontario Works that probably should be on ODSP, or Ontario Disability Program. And so we have hired the services of a psychiatrist in order to help us assess and provide the information to ODSP. So our staff are working with people, identifying and then making the referral so that someone can have someone to assist them through the process. It's a very onerous process to begin with, and does also needs the assistance and of a psychiatrist in order to provide some of that information to ODSP. It's been successful, and the funds that are received through ODSP are a little bit better than Ontario Works. So it's obviously been beneficial for a lot of our clients. It's something that is in our budget annually, and is proving to be beneficial, definitely.
Okay, thank you. And over to the Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Thank you, Anne Marie, for the report. In regards to the Rose Lane project, is this a classic example of a conservation authority not being able to determine between wetland and wet land?
Because in Dundalk, we have a lot of wet land, which ultimately could be built on, but my question really surrounds how much impact potentially could it have to the project? Like, are we talking 20 units or how much could it affect? Please, thank you.
Through you, Madam Warden. I really don't have that information yet. That's what the report coming is going to tell us. That is due hopefully the end of July, August. We're hoping that no matter what it is, we'll be able to work something out. Right now, it is considered the area that we're looking at is for parking lot, right? So that's what it is. We're not putting the building on top of there. We're using it for parking. So really hoping that we'll be able to figure things out. It's just time and cost that is going to be a little bit more extended.
Okay, anything else? Okay, I'm not seeing any further hands, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you very much, Director Shaw. And item 6B, we have, it is recommended that the County of Grey Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting minutes dated June 4th, 2025 be adopted as presented and the following resolution contained therein be endorsed. May I ask for a mover? Thank you. Moved by Councillor McQueen, seconded by Councillor Eccles. So it's now on the floor for discussion, and good morning, Director Taylor.
Great. Good morning. Good morning, Madam Warden and members of council. Well, it's certainly not a competition. We had a great agricultural advisory committee meeting too. I'm sure community services was good as well, but the meeting started with actually an introduction to our newest member of the committee, Chris Strutt. Chris joins us after the vacancy of Hugh Simpson, who left the committee because he had moved away from Grey County. So it was great to have a new face on the committee, and we did a round of introductions for everyone there. Next, we had a great deputation from Emily from Grey Ag Services, who was giving us an update on the 6 projects participating this year in the Experimental Acres program. Council may recall that this program started as a pilot in 2023 and has now run into 24 and 25. With respect to the 6 projects, they range in size and type from very small farm operations all the way up to 230 acres. I'll also note that there was a good geographic distribution across the county of the 6 projects. And while I won't go into detail on any of the projects, because it's definitely beyond my level of expertise, I will just profile who those projects are and where they are. So first we had the ramial mulch around fruit trees by Anthony Rabideau in Southgate. We also had forest trails for strip grazing by Joshua Abai in Meaford. We had overseeding turnip to extend fall grazing by Peter Kotzev in Hanover. We had late summer seeding hay by Wade Deacon in West Grey, and we had the creation of apple guilds by Christina Allen in Meaford. We also heard on the Experimental Acres program by Megan Miles, the county's climate change coordinator for outreach and engagement. And she talked about the positive outcomes of experimental acres and assisting in meeting the county's own climate actions in this regard, as well as the very positive collaboration with Grey Ag Services, which we always look forward to. And she also gave us some background on how the projects were selected this year. Following the deputation, we had, I'm going to say, some exciting updates from planning. We talked about the recent review of the beaver and coyote bylaw programs, as well as the forest management bylaw. We spoke to the open house that was co-hosted at Grey Agricultural Services. And then we spoke to the public meetings that we had in this very council chambers in early May, where we heard from a number of people. Staff give a quick summary of the feedback heard to date. And as you can probably imagine, the feedback was varied. We definitely heard some positive feedback and we heard some constructive comments that staff need to go back and consider. So with that, sort of the update was that staff are going to review all the feedback that's received. We've got some further research to do, probably reaching out to a few other organizations before we bring anything back for council's consideration in that regard. Staff also gave an update on official plan amendment number 23, the rural permitted uses and development policies update. Council will recall that this amendment has now been approved and it's in force and effect. There were some questions from some of the committee members on OPA 23. Some of the questions more specifically related to the proposed Thornbury Acres development in Town of Blue Mountains. That development is not subject to OPA 23 because it preceded OPA 23 and also based on a site-specific exception to consider Thornbury Acres in that amendment. But because the Agricultural Advisory Committee had given feedback early on in the process for official plan amendment number 23, we wanted to close that loop and kind of give them the end of the story, if you will. Following that, we had what's usually the most exciting part of the meeting is the roundtable and sector update, where our committee members get to share their thoughts on the good and the bad and everything else that's happening around the county in their various sectors. We certainly heard some comments about the impacts on agriculture with respect to this winter or early spring's ice storm that hit parts of the county very hard. We also had an exciting update on the recent announcement from the province as part of the budget that Ontario is cutting the tax on cider producers. So it's going from just over 60% to 32%, and this brings it more in lines with the taxes that are on craft beer and taking it out of the rates that were previously applied to cider and imported wine in that regard. Following that, there were some questions on some transportation services programs. So CAO Schertzer gave an update on the county's Living Snow Fence program, where he noted that we're going to explore some options there to try to increase the uptake and make sure that the program is working well for the farm community in that regard, but also serving purposes with respect to sheltering our county roads from snow drifting and aiding again in our climate change goals. And then we had some questions about controlling wild chervil, and Mr. Schertzer noted that we're going to continue to explore options, but one of the significant issues with respect to chervil is even if we control it on our county road allowances and our county owned lands, then we still have the privately owned lands across the county, and that is creating a significant challenge in that regard. Finally, following the roundtable, CAO Schertzer gave an update on the county transportation construction plans for 2025. There was a map showed. He noted that all that information is, of course, posted on the county's website, but also on Municipal 511 for reference purposes. So keeping the agricultural community up to date with these construction programs is critical to ensuring that any projects cause minimal disruption to farmers in that regard. So that, in a nutshell, was the highlights of the meeting we had on June the 4th, but certainly be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll put it out for questions. We'll go to Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Warden. Not a question, but I just wanted for the record to indicate that I wasn't at that meeting, even though it says I was in attendance. So that's why I wasn't able to comment on how great the Agriculture Advisory Committee meeting was. So thank you.
I thought it was going to be a comment on how early Director Taylor is presenting this morning, not ahead of lunch for a change. Anything else? We'll go to Councillor Eccles.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I wondered if it would be possible, maybe for the Ag Committee, just as a recommendation, that you try and figure out what time. I noticed that was the introduction problem, probably because there seem to be people coming and going and moving. Everybody doesn't attend at the same time to that meeting. Must be a lot to do with farmers out on the land or something of that nature. My question is, do we have a county weed inspector?
We do. If it goes much beyond that, I might defer to Pat. Our county weed inspector, my understanding is Mark Cronin, who also pulls double duties with the sign shop. But if there's further questions, I might defer to Pat there.
I guess the further question would be, is that not what our weed inspector, when you're speaking about wild chervil being an invasive species and being on private land and whatnot, my understanding and the way that the weed inspector operates is that to coordinate that to try and control this continuous spread of wild chervil. We've had a number of other invasive species, purple loosestrife, Phragmites. Thank you, Barb. And is that? I always understood that's kind of what the weed inspector was there for, was to try and help the community mitigate the detrimental effects of these weeds. I'm looking at Pat. I'm not sure whether he wants to jump in or not.
Yeah, so just briefly, Mark is our weed inspector, and this issue does come up quite frequently in that, we have our own responsibilities under the Invasive Species Act. But we can't really spray on private land. We can issue an order, but some of the materials we use can't be sprayed on private land. So we could go into more detail this kind of offline, but it is an issue that, we don't go across every property in the county and try to stop invasive species, but generally we're working within our confined areas to try to stop the spread.
Thank you. And just further to Pat's comments, with respect to some of the challenges, as Pat indicated, in terms of the private landowners, we do work with our communications staff in terms of trying to create some education awareness around how to control wild chervil. There are some challenges, as Pat indicated, in terms of what's available to farmers versus what's available to the county municipalities to help eradicate wild chervil. And part of the question, I think, was from the Ag Advisory Committee was what further can be done. So I think part of it would be having some further discussions with maybe having Mark attend as well as Pat attend one of our future Agriculture Advisory Committee meetings, just to have a discussion with the committee about what could be looked at further in terms of just raising some of that education awareness around this particular topic matter.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to go online to Councillor Bordenio.
Thank you, and good morning again, County Council. Through the warden, first a comment about the cider. This is a huge win, and I appreciate the help from Grey County. This has been something we've been working on for about 6 years at the local council table, and a drop of almost half price on the taxation for cider is just a huge win for our local cider producers, not just in TBM but throughout the region and throughout the province for that matter. But I did have a question for Director Taylor because we do have a notice of motion coming forth at the local table in regards to the beaver and coyote bylaw. Director Taylor, can you just expand on what the responsibilities of the upper tier and the lower tier are when it comes to beaver and coyote management? As at our next meeting, we will be seeing a notice of motion from one of our local councillors. So I'd just like to get that definition I can bring back to the local table.
Sure. Through you, Madam Warden. Thank you for your question, Councillor Bordenio. I'll give you a relatively brief response now, but if it helps, maybe I can forward you an email with some of the past staff reports, and maybe that will help clarify in that regard. So with respect to the current beaver program, licensed trappers are eligible to receive the bounty for trapping beavers. The municipal role in that is sort of, as gruesome as it sounds, to collect the tails and certify that the beavers were presented to the municipality in that regard. And then paperwork is forwarded on to the county, we review, and we pay out directly to the trappers. With respect to the coyote and wolf program, again, the municipality is on that front line in terms of, in this case, collecting the ears to certify that the coyotes were properly trapped. It's a little bit different with the coyote program because the coyote trapping is only eligible when there's been an attack on livestock. So there's also the role of the livestock evaluator in that case. But again, once that's certified that, yes, there was an attack on livestock, the ears have been presented to the municipality, then the form comes up to the county and it's paid. One of the things we talked about in the earlier staff report is that neither of these programs are legislatively required of the county. We've heard from the agricultural community that they're definitely appreciated, and on the beaver side, they're also maybe appreciated in terms of helping local infrastructure and not flooding out lands. But the county isn't required to offer these services. Some counties do, and some counties don't. But what been hearing is that's a bit of a declining thing. So part of the feedback that we're getting is along the lines of the agricultural community saying that, yep, this is absolutely essential. We need this to continue on. But we've also heard from others that have given alternative points of view to suggest that maybe this isn't a business the county should be in, and maybe there's other non-lethal ways of controlling both beavers and coyotes that might be more beneficial in the long term in that regard. So if it works for you, Councillor Bourdignon, I'm certainly happy to forward you on those past staff reports, and more than happy to take this discussion offline if there's any further questions, or if there's anything we can do to support the town in addressing that notice of motion. More than happy to do so.
Through the warden, thank you, Director Taylor. And just for clarification, the municipality would be governed under the bylaw set that's in place with the region. Is that correct? For operationally, when it comes to the I guess the trappings and the proof and the things like that.
Through you, Madam Warden. Certainly under the current bylaw, the two current bylaws for both the beavers and the coyotes and wolves, the process is that it comes first to the municipality, then up to the county. I suppose if there was an appetite from county council to explore an alternate approach, we definitely have to chat further with legal services to make sure that that's all good from a legal perspective. But the current bylaw has things going to the municipality first and then the county. The current bylaws,
Thank you.
sorry.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Warden. And just to follow up on Councillor Eccles' comments around the well travel, Councillor Eccles did mention or ask Scott the question yesterday in the Budget and Finance Committee about the finances available for weed control, and we don't have that much in the budget, or not nearly as much as what we may need to have. My limited knowledge on weed inspectors, if there's a complaint from an agricultural landowner about adjacent properties with weeds, there is a responsibility that those weeds are eliminated. So I guess my question is, what is the liability for the county with the expansive amount of trails that we have that are adjacent to agricultural properties? And if requests are made to get rid of that noxious weed, where does that leave us? So I appreciate that more information is coming back, but that may be a consideration that we need to look at, because I'm hearing more and more from the agricultural community about the issues along the sides of the roads and properties that belong to municipalities. So thank you.
Through you, Madam Warden. Thank you for your question, your comment, Councillor Mackey. We might need to take that back as feedback. I'm certainly not qualified to comment on the liability in that regard, but that's certainly something as staff we can look into further and chat with our own legal services staff in that regard. But thank you for raising that.
Okay, any further questions? Looking around, not seeing any hands up. Okay, then thank you very much, Director Taylor. So at this point in time, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. So we now will just jump briefly down to items 8 and 9 before returning to item 7. So number 8 is other business. Any other business? Okay, not seeing anything, and I'll put out a call for notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion to serve today? And again, seeing no hands go up. In that case, then we'll move to item 7, which is closed meeting matters. And it's recommended that the committee of the whole does now go into closed session pursuant to section 239 3.1 for the purpose of educating or training members on the code of conduct matters. May I ask for a mover? Moved by Councillor Gregg. And seconder? Oh, just a question, not moving yet? Okay. Let me let me get the motion on the floor and then I'll ask questions. So it's moved by Councillor Carleton, second by Councillor Patterson. It's now on the floor for discussion. Councillor Gregg.
I would like a recorded vote on this, please. I'm not convinced that this training should be held in closed. There's the opportunity if something should arise during the conversation that we can then consider going into close at that time, but just to view it as us operating in a transparent manner, I don't believe this justifies us going into close. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, this has been, the request is for a recorded vote.
And this is to move to proceed in camera. So Councillor Mackey. Opposed, Councillor McKay. Opposed, Councillor Carlton. In favor, Councillor Pringle. Opposed, Councillor McQueen. Opposed, Councillor Nielsen. In favor, Councillor Patterson. In favor, Councillor Dickert. Opposed, Councillor Kentner. In favor. Councillor Keating. In favor, Councillor Body. Opposed, Councillor Gregg. Opposed, Councillor Milne. In favor, Councillor Dobreen. Opposed, Warden Matrosovs. In favor, Councillor Borignon.
In favor.
In favor, Councillor Eccles. Opposed, Councillor Hutchinson.
Opposed.
Opposed. That motion is carried 50 to 46.
Okay, sorry, there was a request for clarification on the voting result, Madam Clerk.
The motion to proceed in camera was carried 50 in favor, 46 in opposition.
50 in favor, 46 in opposition. Is there any further question? Councillor Eccles?
On a recorded vote in committee as a whole, is it done on a weighted portion or just a straight?
So with Grey County's procedural bylaw, both committee and committee of the whole and council are recorded votes are weighted.
Any further questions? Okay, so we have voted then to go into closed session and we will come out with a reporting out statement afterwards. And that is the remaining item that rests on our agenda other than adjournment when we return. Yes, Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you, Warden. Could we have a brief recess before proceeding into the training?
Yes, thank you for the reminder. That's an excellent idea. So we'll make sure that we have voted to go into closed session. We'll call a break. Madam Clerk, 10 minutes. Is that okay? Okay, so 10 minutes. So if we are to reconvene at 11:10. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We have risen from closed session and I can report that committee, the whole went into closed session for the purpose of educating or training members of on the code of conduct. There was no discussion on any matter that materially advanced the business or decision-making of the council in closed session. So with that then, had already dispensed with items 8 and 9 earlier before going into close. So with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Dobreen. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.